For all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
You know, how other teams are just kind of reveling in this. It's like, finally, they're getting their comeuppance. Everyone's against us, Paul. I forget that, but I
not
tell
anymore.
You're
irrelevant now, and I do not have the highest regard for Mike Florio, as you know. Terry Bradshaw's still alive, by the way.
Jackson Smith and Jigba was at Fenway last night with the Red Sox. Guess where he's not coming? Here. He's already here. Like, you don't even need to pay for the flight. So he called coaches that he's worked with in the past that he trusts, and that's a problem?
But think about Bill. I'm
done thinking about Bill.
I know, but think
Deuce said what I am trying to say in a much nicer way because I'm just fed up with this BS.
Smith and Jingba.
Perfect.
And Jingba.
Like, there's a million cars I can't afford.
Right.
Because of you.
If I'm Mac and I play great this year, I tell the team to go pound sand.
Yeah.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Fueled by Duncan.
All right, welcome into Patriots Unfiltered. We have a very special show for you today, ladies and gentlemen, as our two dads are away. Paul and Fred are at the very important Hall of Fame meeting, not the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Very prestigious.
The Patriots Hall of Fame. So they're over there at a catered lunch right now, I'm sure, getting to talk about former Patriots greats to decide who will be on the ballot for the fans to go in next. So unfortunately for you guys, that means you're stuck with, I can't call us the kids. I'm way too old to be a kid. Deuce and the kids. All right,
I like when you go to Thanksgiving and you get stuck at the kids' table, Deuce.
That's all right. I like the kids' table. I like all you guys. So who knows?
Chicken fingers and French fries coming next.
Well,
You're the uncle that is. He's
the cool
kind of
uncle.
a loose cannon at the adult table. He's gonna probably spark some controversy. But you're young and hip enough to get relegated to the kids.
I like it. I just hope I don't spark any controversy here today.
Nothing could be worse than what we just heard in introing the show. I feel like
I told Deuce I'm going to keep my cool. I'm going to keep my cool today. I'm not going to do it. Not going to let it get to me.
No, we're definitely going to get Evan to have it get to him. Absolutely.
I'm zenning over
well,
here.
According to Evan's Twitter this morning, he said the Patriots, if they show this much interest in Zay Flowers and don't pick him, like, he's going to be very upset. So.
Yeah.
I'm going to be crushed.
That's a waste
I've been doing breathing exercises like our quarterback, preparing myself for the first round of the draft because
preparing to trade out.
I don't want to lose it on the draft show when they take Bijan Robinson in the first round. So I've been working on finding my center and staying calm.
I got a good video idea of if they don't draft Zay Flowers. It's just Evan kind of walking down the street and he just sees some beautiful spring flowers and just.
And then that TikTok sound that's like, I try not to kill myself.
And then I just start running through the whole thing with the machete or something.
Wait, jeez. But who knows? Evan does have recency bias. Maybe there's still some time for him to, flip on that situation. And he might, by then he might be on Bijan Robinson.
So I'll tell you, because some people ask me this, they're like, when's the moment that you fell in love with Zay Flowers? And I'll tell you,
Do you have any romantic music there, man?
It was at the Shrine Bowl, and we were talking to him the day before the practices started. And I did that feature on him for Patriots.com, and I was like, are you going to practice this week? And he was like, you know what? My dad, who I think is a big part of his football life, and my agent are telling me not to because I don't need to practice. I have nothing to prove. But I'm getting sick and tired of hearing people say I'm not that good, and I'm just going to go out there and practice anyways. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You know what? I love the story also about his dad, but when he could have transferred from BC
to USC.
Right. And the NIL money was calling, and his dad was like, they're the only ones who wanted you when no one wanted you.
That's what he talked a little bit about that, and he mentioned that exact story, and I looked into it a little bit more, and they actually offered Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers an NIL deal to come play at USC for a season, and Addison obviously took the bag and Flowers didn't. I'm not saying that's like a bad knock on Addison necessarily, but he's a really faithful guy, and he committed to the Shrine Bowl early on in the process, and then the Senior Bowl came calling, and he said, I'm already going to the Shrine. Even though he probably belonged at the Senior Bowl, he stuck with the people at the Shrine Bowl too, so he's a very consistent dude in that.
Yeah, if you're wondering why we're right on Zay Flowers, there was a tweet this morning from Tom Pelissero who said that yesterday Flowers landed at like 6 a.m. off a red eye, came right here and jumped into the fire with Bill O'Brien and learning the offense, which, Evan and I were saying he's probably got a foundation in it that he got out at the Shrine Bowl. And this is probably like quiz time, which I'm sure we've all taken red eyes. And
you certainly have.
Getting off a red eye.
That one show
yeah, well, that which was like I was leaning into it. I'm like, I know I'm going to be a mess. I know I'm going to say all kinds of wrong things. I think I dropped my first F-bomb
that day.
Hopefully Zay Flowers didn't. Well, he probably did with Billy O. Probably a good thing for him. But there's just no question. He's a local kid. He's what they need. He's an exciting playmaker. And, every time you talk about him, it's the energy around the team right now and all the Mac stuff we'll get into a little bit. But there was one guy that they could select at 14th overall that would all of a sudden maybe reinvigorate people and get them kind of on board with, all right, let's see what Mac's got with this. And one other point I would make, too, like in Mac's, like Mac did the same thing. Mac won the national championship, still went to the Senior Bowl and practiced and threw at 2 different pro days. That was, the COVID year when they didn't have the combine. So love that stuff from Zay Flowers. And I don't think anybody can say you wouldn't be thrilled about that pick. Is anybody going to call in? I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there, one of our listeners that wouldn't be thrilled, but what a pick. And the Boston College local thing, that feeds in for me too.
That's why I wonder if they work out together. I've never seen anything about it, but they just put up that new field house. Great place for Mac to go throw and great option for him to throw to.
Up at BC in Chestnut Hill, the Heights.
I think, and I speak for all Patriots fans when I say this, I hope, is that aren't you just sick of them passing on these star receivers in the draft and then watching Justin Jefferson just go off in Minnesota, or DK Metcalf with the Seahawks, or Debo with the Niners? Like, aren't you, as Patriots fans, you got to just be tired of, they brought A.J. Brown in for a visit. They're showing interest in top receivers, and then we know what happens. And I just feel like at some point you gotta just take one of these guys. And with Zay, they've been on him since the Shrine Bowl. They worked with him there. Now they're bringing him in for this visit. Like, why are you wasting this much time with a guy that you're not interested in and you're not going to take? It doesn't make sense.
I also like that he's a star, but he also has like a great character and a great personality, in the sense of like he's not a huge like diva or like going to be a problem for you, or at least we hope not. I think that he carries himself like very well.
And he seems loyal to people who believed in him, and I think that's always a good trait. I
don't think he'll be a problem off the field. I think he's talented and also a great person.
A lot of the coaches and stuff at BC, when I was at their pro day, just said he's the same guy that he was when he walked onto campus 4 years ago. And he's had a lot of buzz and hype about him, especially now in the draft, and he's just kind of hasn't changed. And you look at like his quarterback play too at BC. We talked about this a little bit on the draft pods. Like he's 5'9", but he's making all these acrobatic catches because his quarterbacks weren't so great, and he's still plucking the ball and bringing it in. And I don't know. I can't understand it. Like how do you get this much knowledge and this much information and do this much homework on a player like that, and then come draft night, I'm pre-mad about something they haven't done yet. I get that, but come draft night, you just go, no thanks. Like I just can't see that.
Yeah, unless he totally blew it yesterday and was like, I don't remember.
I also think that too, like there's not as much fear with drafting a wide receiver in the first round and potentially not being able to develop him. I feel like Zay will do everything in his power to make sure like he continues to get better. Yeah. Whereas I don't know what happened with N'Keal Harry. I don't want to know what happened there. But I think before I was kind of like fearful of if we draft a first round wide receiver and are not able to develop him and it doesn't work out like N'Keal Harry. Yeah. It's kind of scary.
I mean, I think N'Keal Harry had, issues coming in, but I would say I think part of the problem for him was that he got hurt like almost right away in camp. And then he missed all that time. And it's just, especially for any rookie in any system, you just get behind that 8 ball. And maybe here specifically, once you're behind, it's even harder to kind of catch up. Yep. And, when Tom Brady was here to earn his trust, those kind of things. But it'd be a great sign. I think for Mac, too. I think Mac would love it, would see, one of his guys. And, I did want to just bring up, because we spent so much time on that Mike Florio report on Tuesday's show, just to bring up, couple reports from Mark Daniels, Jeff Howe, saying that they called around and, it's kind of news to their sources that Mac was available. So, you believe what you want. I know Mike Florio was the only one to kind of come out with that. There's, some stuff from Dan Patrick today too, which we don't have to get into, but I think it's just fair to mention that there were some pushback on that in terms of, were they shopping him? Was it just a conversation? Not to say that I think Mike Florio is going to make stuff up, but you also, like Fred insinuated, there can be motivation for other teams to put information out there. And I would...
Or agents.
Probably agents, really, which I would also connect to the reports that we kind of gotten in mock drafts with Bijan Robinson, which Jeff Howe, another report by him, and Evan is grimacing right now. But we are in silly season. I think that's important to mention right now. We're 3 weeks away today from the first round of the draft, and this is when all the misinformation and, so as Evan and I were texting, if you're the Patriots, wouldn't you love it if you're, hey, Bijan Robinson, he's good, but what we'd really love is for someone to think we want him to trade up above us, and then a Zay Flowers, one of the tackles, somebody they might have their eye on could get pushed down. So
There's always a mind game.
It's always a mind game, especially right now when we're 3 weeks in, and that's just something important. Don't believe everything you read, but it does seem like somebody wants that information out there.
But I think when I saw that report, I was landing, and I was like, it's kind of believable. If you think about it, just because we haven't really gotten a straight answer from Bill. We were right in front of Bill at owners' meetings where he said everybody's going to have a chance to play. When the question was asked if Bailey Zappi would be competing against him. Obviously, Bill never answers the question straight anyways. But I think it's very intriguing that he's never really said Mac's our guy. He's always like, Mac is a quarterback in this league. Everybody will have a chance to play. Like, he's never fully committed to
quarterback.
Mac is a quarterback. Yes, he is. We know this. And so I think that there is something in me that's like that could potentially be true. And we also see that the Raiders are not stealing,
Can
but
we send
taking
them a cease and desist at this point?
Taking all their guys.
It wouldn't be surprising to see Matt go there with the way everybody's been going there.
Well, it would have happened before
Matt Hoyer and
Garoppolo, right? that would have been.
Or he could
the
come
time to do
behind
it, but
Garoppolo and learn from him.
I think you make a good point, Tamara. And the people that are just like dismissed it out of hand, I feel like we're not really paying attention to the last 4 months of how he's kind of been treated. And it's you mentioned Jacoby leaves, so there are a lot of things up against it right now, but I don't think any of us want to spend the whole day.
Nope. I'm not getting frustrated about this, but I want to say one thing about it, and I'm not doing it today. I'm not doing it. I'm not letting this get to me. I think the one thing the reason why I get so frustrated and why I got so frustrated about it on Tuesday is because I was here in 2018 and 2019 when the relationship between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady deteriorated to the point where Brady left. And that, to me, everybody makes that about the contract. And that, to me, was two people that it was like a divorce, right? It was two people that just fell out of love with each other.
Irreconcilable differences.
Right. That was a personal relationship issue. The money and all that other stuff, I ultimately think that they would have made all that work if Brady came to the table and said, I'm not going anywhere. Like, this is where I want to be and I'm staying. My point being is that whether there's a rift or not, whether he's on the trade block or not, there's clearly some sort of reluctance on Bill Belichick's part with Mac Jones to anoint him, make him the starter, name him the starter publicly. And at this point, we're going on now the second quarterback that Bill has sort of been at odds with. And at what point do we look at the situation and say there's a common denominator here? Yeah. Like two different quarterbacks. Brady obviously a lot more of a star than Mac Jones, but Mac Jones is also a name brand. Like, he's a quarterback that people know. He played at Alabama. He's a first-round pick. And now we have two quarterbacks with at least a little bit of name recognition, if you don't want to give Mac anything more than that are not exactly getting along with Bill Belichick. And I think at some point in time, you have to look and see the situation objectively, that the common denominator here is Bill. And I think once upon a time, go all the way back to Lawyer Malloy, right? Like, that was the first guy I can remember having some issues with Bill. Deion Branch, Logan Mankins, Asante Samuel clearly continues to talk about it to this day. You were good enough to get over those things, right? You were good enough to trade Deion Branch. You were good enough to dump Lawyer Malloy, excuse me. But are you good enough now to be alienating good football players, and I don't think you are.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. I mean, I would say that, a lot of those were contract related, and those guys, whether it was having to take pay cuts, wanting new contracts that he wasn't willing to bend on. So, I mean, I do think that this is a little bit different, and not in a great way, because this isn't as cut and dry as that. It isn't just Mac wants more money and they don't want to give it to him. But you're right. It's just I don't think they can hit the reset button right now on Mac and then go to what. So
that's the thing. Is like, if you're telling me that it's Mac or Lamar Jackson, then we've all had this conversation already on this show, and everybody knows where I stand and where I'm sure we all stand. But if it's just we need to get rid of Mac because I don't like the kid, that's not a good enough answer to me.
Yeah.
It's just not good enough. If there's a great alternative, that's one thing. But to go back into the quarterback carousel just because Mac pouted last season because you made Matt Patricia the offensive coordinator, that doesn't do it for me.
I saw something kind of interesting. I don't know how much credence I'm putting into it, but just regarding how Mac allegedly went outside of the Patriots to try to seek help with the offense, and then how Brian Hoyer and Jacoby both had spoken with reporters about the offense's dysfunction, and now those are two guys that were shipped out, and then which didn't make necessarily a ton of sense, and then now Mac, obviously these rumors. I forget who I saw kind of speculating on that scenario, but
there's a lot going on, and we're off to a rip-roaring start here. I think I've worked through just about everything I had planned to talk about in the first 16 minutes of the show. But we, of course, would love to hear from you guys. Give us a call, 888-PATS-500. Shoot us an email, webradio@patriots.com. We've already got some emails coming in. I also just wanted to set the table a little bit, and I apologize, girls, because I know you didn't spend your 90s and aughts watching as Super Patriots fans, but Paul and Fred are over there, and they're going to be discussing some names, and I'm sure the fans have plenty of strong opinions. A few of the names that I know are probably going to be up, names that have been recently up: Parcells, Mike Vrabel, which is my guy, continues to be there. Logan Mankins, Wes Welker is available as well, and I Brady, is this? I don't know. Is Brady could they possibly come out of there and say we're going to put Brady in? I don't know.
So I asked that question when we were talking about it. I asked Paul if that was when we were talking about ways to honor Brady now that he's, we think, officially retired, and I just asked, well, what about just putting him into the Patriots Hall of Fame without a voting process and without the grace period and all? I mean, are we really? Is he not going to win the fan vote? What are we wasting our time here with that? So I wouldn't be surprised if they discuss that today and maybe go that direction.
A lot of other coaches too that are Ivan Fears, Dante Scarnecchia, all these different guys that possibly could be in this process as well. But I love the Bill Parcells of it all, which is just such a great debate point. I've said my piece. I've kind of come around to it, and I'm kind of open to him being in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, stop it.
I mean, I feel like he set the stage.
You want to put a 500 coach in the Hall of Fame?
Well, his drafts were really good.
He
brought in Bill Belichick.
A coach that was halfway out the door during a Super Bowl run?
And that's a valid counter, and Fred make that point too. But I have to speak from my own experience as a Patriots fan who witnessed one-win seasons. He completely changed everything here for me, and it suddenly made the Patriots seem like, instead of an also-ran, and I know I'm probably in the minority here, and people can call in and yell at me, and I'm not saying I'm pounding the table for it, but I just can't ignore 15, 16-year-old Mike Tuso, whatever I was, when they finally hired him, and it was like, oh my gosh, we have an actual team now, and to go from that point, I'm trying to think of a team right now that might be a good example that just has been absolute trash, and then within 2 years. You've got a franchise quarterback. You've got a franchise running back who unfortunately lose. You've got the makings of a defense that would dominate the following decade, and you go to a Super Bowl. Now, everything you said, Evan, is totally right. And the fact that he was on the phone with the Jets of all teams, and I can tell you, too, from experience being in college watching the Tunables, how badly I wanted to beat Bill Parcells in those games, too. So I get it. I used to be on the other side. I'm a little bit on this side, too. But for me, I just love Mike Vrabel, and I think it's ridiculous that he, the fans have to, step up. I mean, how many touchdown catches did Mike Vrabel have? I'd have to look at the stats, but he's got something I look. They had there's a graphic online circulating where it's really well done. It shows all the touchdowns that the players that have caught from Tom Brady, and it's Mike Vrabel is 10th. I mean, it's insane. He played on the other side of the ball, touchdowns in the Super Bowl. So I had to say my piece on that, and then of course the last one is just Wes Welker, which unfortunately is a controversial pick because he dropped the ball and however you want to see that play.
Throw.
Better throw. Yeah, I know. It's a rough throw that probably should have been caught. That's how I kind of look at it. But each of these guys we're getting into now, nobody's really a slam dunk. Everybody's kind of got some issues with the fans because the fans vote. The fans are the ones who are responsible to put these guys in.
Yeah, I think Vrabel has a tough time because he is currently the active coach of the Titans, who have beat the Patriots in some
that one
game
games. In particular. Yeah,
Brady's last
game as a Patriot is a loss to Mike Vrabel. So I think for fans that are especially maybe more knowledgeable about the team right now and not necessarily like the early 2000s Patriots teams that he played on, might be thinking of more Mike Vrabel, the Titans coach, and just the optics of putting in another team's coach into your Hall of Fame.
It's kind of good trolling.
It's a little strange.
Like at halftime of the game.
I can't believe that you want Bill Parcells. And I can't believe that.
Want is maybe a little bit too strong.
You said you wanted it.
I want it. I would say more. I'm open to it. I'm open to it.
When he kicked off to Desmond Howard, he lost me. That was it.
That's like 6-year-old Evan diagramming a kickoff return.
I knew he was throwing the game at that point. Desmond Howard, the greatest returner of his generation, in the Super Bowl when you have a lead in the second half and you kick. No.
I hear you. And that was right as the game. You felt like, oh my gosh, we might actually have a chance. And now this was like, I think a sophomore in college, and I also had mono at the time. So I was a little bit of a fever dream. I actually had mono and pneumonia at the same time in college. I was very sick. Very sick.
Were you living in a dorm at that time?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, this makes total sense.
Playing hockey, I played a game actually, like
with it.
Yeah, the day before, like we were up at Hobart, up in upstate New York, and they have like an outdoor rink, and I was like, I am deaf, and we played the game. We all played horrible. I remember missing like a couple really, really good scoring chances too. And I'm like, man, I feel terrible. Got back and like went to the infirmary.
Cool story, Hansel.
Thank you, Matt. I was sick. I almost died. I'll wrap it up quick, but yeah, I went to the doctor and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you are sick, kid. Like you got to go to the doctor." So anyway, yeah, that's
anyway.
that was.
I wasn't born for 85, obviously, but my dad, my uncles, grandfathers, they would tell me about stories about that Super Bowl, and they were just happy to be in that Super Bowl. And they knew they were going to get their doors blown off by the 85 Bears. Like they were up
3-0.
There was no conversation of whether or not they were going to win that game. But the Packers Super Bowl, they probably should have won the game, just the way that the game unfolded. And to me, Parcells is as much to blame. I mean, Reggie White, like, can we don't put a tight end over there, chip him, like do something.
This is all retroactive, because how old were you in '96?
4.
He's so mad about just
like you're kicking off to Desmond.
Little baby Evan getting mad, whipping his blanket. And
when I was a youngin, this is full off season. Deuce is telling us about how he was sick in college. When I was a youngin, I watched games at restaurants and bars with my dad, and we would just go up to the bar.
He was a kid at the bar.
He's in a booster seat at the bar.
4 years old.
So I would like be like 6 years old, and we
4 or 6. Come on.
We would just like go up to the bar and just see the score and what was going on in the game and everything, and I would obviously be spouting off takes, and some adults would take it like and be like, oh, this is kind of cute, like this little kid is
probably grinding some gears with some people,
and some adults would be like, who the heck is this kid, like this is ridiculous. So I had some stories where I got into some trouble, people getting fed up with a 6-year-old telling them that they're wrong.
So this has happened your entire life?
I need to hear one.
Oh yeah, so actually one time I'll tell you a quick story time, and it was at my dad's cousin's wedding, and my parents tell the story better than me, but I was in a group of people and we were arguing Celtics-Knicks at the time. Like that was, something that was, the Knicks were actually good back then or something. It was enough of a rivalry to argue about it. And my parents were somewhere else and I was there by myself. And my parents like overhear somebody being like, yeah, there's this kid in the other room and he's like going toe to toe with the adults about sports, and he knows what he's talking about, but I think it's getting under some people's skins. And my dad just looks at my mom and goes, I'll be right back. and goes, and I'm just sitting in there holding court, like all these people are around me and I'm just like telling them that they're idiots or whatever. So
you got a YouTube channel.
This was born, I was born like this. I'm sorry.
I got to ask you guys, though, like, are there any particular games, I mean, not Patriots games, but just general sporting events or games that you remember as a kid being really impacted by, like, for the first time, or feeling like invested for the first time in a sports?
Losing the Super Bowl after going undefeated, I got home from my friend Carly's house and went to town on my AIM away message, like, frantically. Like, as long as that away message could be, I was probably cursing up a storm. I would pay so much money to archive all that and find it.
AOL Instant Messenger. I'm sure it's probably out there. What about you, Tamara? You got some college football stuff? Or,
I was trying to think of like some college games that I really enjoyed. Honestly, I'd probably have to say like Alabama losing in like the Iron Bowl every single time. Like that was iconic for me, especially the kick six. I think that was probably my favorite one that I've ever seen.
What was that one?
They tried to kick a field goal, and the guy caught it and ran it back,
and won.
I just saw that on Saban and Belichick, that special. They talked about that, and which, like, slightly off topic, like, that was crazy to hear Bill Belichick and Nick Saban kind of talking about times they screwed up, because you don't really hear that ever.
That was one of them?
That was one of them.
That was Nick's regret.
That Nick said, that was one of the bad ones, but... Yeah, it's you brought up the Super Bowl in the 80s. You're right, though. It was funny. Like, and I brought it up before. You can go on YouTube and check out the Patriots and we. And, you got all of Boston was just so excited. And now it's like I could never in a million years imagine anybody being that, like, just, I don't know, just positive and like, wow, isn't this great? We're going to play in the Super Bowl. Like, instead you'd be hearing all the reasons why they're going to lose, or like why they shouldn't be there, or those are like the stories that drive things now. But I just remember being, I don't know, I was probably about 10 at the time, and being excited, and then all of a sudden, oh god, this is not good at all. And then you got the refrigerator Perry
going right down your
running touchdowns and all that. So it's
I was young in '96. I was young. I was a baby.
Same.
I was 4. But the first true heartbreak was Aaron Boone. Definitely.
Yeah.
Like, that was the first time where sports like truly crushed me, especially because the Patriots had just won in 01, and that was obviously kicking off what ended up being a ridiculous run. But that was the first time where I was truly devastated by a sports loss. I would say would be Boone.
Cup Finals 1990 Bruins Edmonton Oilers, that got me too. That was probably the worst one.
I remember getting in trouble, like mildly in trouble, as like a little first grader. I think it must have been that 01 Super Bowl or kindergarten or something. It was Groundhog Day, like the same weekend. And then I got back to school on Monday and everyone's talking about like the groundhog seeing a shadow. And I'm like, what the hell are you people talking about? The Patriots just won the Super Bowl. Like, what are we doing here?
Oh my God.
It's funny though. You see the
Miss Parallax class didn't care, I guess.
But you see the like little evidence of what you were gonna maybe end up kind of doing, right? Like just little. I mean, you were just already doing it apparently.
Right out of the womb.
Yeah, you had no chance.
No chance. Out in the thing. Well, we got plenty of emails here, and let's. Patty's been holding for a while, so let's jump over to the phones here, so we don't make poor Patty hold on. I'm sure he's dying to talk to the B Squad. No Paul. Hey Patty, what's going on? No Paul. No Fred. So I apologize. You got to ask us.
No, that's all right. I love the B Squad. Like where the conversation is going too. I'll just say I'll never forget. My first Boston sports moment was when I was 10. I went to Fenway Park a couple times, and actually I got, my parents were old school, so I got the crap kicked out of me after the fact. But I was in Fenway Park watching the game. I think they were playing the Detroit Tigers, and being the bright kid that I was sticking peanuts up my nose and shooting them out at people in the crowd. So that speaks to my intelligence, and but also like my very first big Patriots moment was Super Bowl 20. I was an OG bandwagoner. I pretty much liked every other sport and every other team before I liked the Patriots. And my first game was 1991. They played the defending AFC champion Buffalo Bills and beat them 16-13. And it was like right around Thanksgiving. I'll never forget. Like Hugh Millen threw a 50-yard touchdown pass to Urban Fryer, and
is that like one of three wins that season? I think.
Yeah, they went 6-10 that year,
right.
And there was hope that they were going to be good. And then, of course, the next year they go 2-14 and end up drafting Drew Bledsoe the year after. And the 2 wins that year, Dante was the interim head coach.
Yeah.
But just a quick question for you guys too. What do you think will happen if the team as it's construed, minus what they do in the draft, when the rubber meets the road in September? Do you think they put all this crap, as Sam Malone would say, it's the drama behind them, and just say, hey, let's make this happen? Because even though like the offense was inept this past year, they still did end up winning 8 games, and they came close to, they were 1 win away from making the playoffs. I think even with as much talent as we see in the AFC East, I don't think it's out of the realm of the possibility if everyone's able to, squash their hurt feelings and put 2022 back into 2022 and focus on this year. I could see this team making the playoffs this year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, thanks. That's good. Good discussion. And I mean, I do think like if you're gonna maybe color it the Fred positive way of they won 8 games with an offense that like everyone was not behind and didn't believe in, and it's just, I guess it's hard for me to see. I think that like I still think Bill Belichick is a really good coach, and the team as constituted, I think they could probably squeeze out 6, 7, 8, 9 wins again. Like it's just, how do you get over the hump? How do you beat the good teams? And I struggle
in the division now.
Even with Bill Belichick, especially in the division, which I always say it starts for me. How do you get over the hump? Like, it's hard to say with the team constituted, and the only thing you can really hang your hat on is the fact that they have hired Bill O'Brien and that they have, hired an actual offensive line coach. The players are fine, and I think they've done enough, and I think their defense is pretty good, but I can't sit here and say that I think that they can get over the hump and consistently beat playoff teams. What was that? What did I have? 5-14 is what they are against playoff teams over the last 3 years. Like, how is it any different? I don't know. And how much do you really think any rookie is really going to change that? Like Zay Flowers, great. Is he worth 2-3 wins? I can't really say that. I don't believe. I need to see it come together on the field.
Yeah, I think that in order to get back into the playoffs, let's just put it there. Like Robert Kraft said, he wants to be back in the playoffs next year. You have to win some games that maybe us prognosticators don't expect you to win.
Right.
Like you have to win at least, I would say, 2 of those games
without losing the Chicago game.
Right.
They lost last year to the 3-win
to
team
get to 10, 11 wins and make the playoffs. And I think in 2021, there were a few instances where I'll pull a Paul, since we've already pulled a Fred, where they got some luck, from injuries and things like that on the opponent. And if Tennessee comes in here with a full arsenal, do they beat Tennessee in 2021? Do they beat some of those teams that were banged up like that or didn't have everybody available against the Patriots? I don't know. So I think that's the problem right now, is that you're in that margin of how do you pull off an upset against Buffalo? How do you finally solve Miami, right, to get a win against the Dolphins? How do you do those things to get yourself to 11 wins, where we're talking about playoffs? I think there's still a little bit of ways from that.
And I think it's worth noting that I don't think we're going to have the same luck that we had this year in playing so many backups.
Yeah.
How many backup quarterbacks did we play this year?
I mean, and that's been the thing for a few years,
And then even you tack on like the Jets. You can't forget about the Jets, who, I mean, obviously they're still trying to figure out this whole Aaron Rodgers situation, but if they get him, that's not going to be like a guaranteed 2 wins right there. Like that's just,
I mean, look at how those games went last year, down to the very final play of the game. And I'm going to say it again. I can't ignore Aaron Rodgers coming here to the Patriots. I can't. I'm sure I'm probably crazy, and there's probably no chance. But the longer it drags out with the Jets and them, at what point does Green Bay say, you know what? we need to figure out what we want, and we're not going to sit around and wait for the Jets to finally give in, especially, and it just doesn't it seem like it would be totally something that Bill would do to swoop in and take him from the Jets, and I know he's always intrigued with those players. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I can't completely rule that one out, especially because I feel like Aaron Rodgers, believe me, I'm not a huge fan of him off the field in terms of who, as a quarterback, as an athlete.
He is a PR nightmare.
He's awesome. But it would be a challenge. But at the same time, I think when you see a generational football player who can still play at a high level and would instantly change the conversation here, more so than any rookie you could possibly draft, I don't know. I'm still kind of thinking it could possibly happen.
Yeah. And he would also bring OBJ with him. He wants him. He would obviously bring that whole list with him of people that he wants, but
and OBJ is the same thing where he's holding out for who's going to give me that money, who's going to give maybe nobody, and
he wants a good quarterback too, though.
And as we have 3 weeks to go, this is when the rubber starts to meet the road, and teams say, look, we're not waiting for a 2024 pick. We want a 2023 first rounder right now. And if you're not going to give it to us, we're going to start talking to other teams and see what they're willing to give up. I don't know if the Patriots are going to be willing to give up a first round pick for him. And there's the money thing, and there's plenty of reasons to say why it couldn't work and it's impossible. But I just think at the end of the day, here's a quarterback who I know Bill Belichick respects, who's a great player, who clearly is not, as much as Lamar is a wonderful guy and a wonderful player. I mean, there are some significant changes that will probably need to happen if you bring Lamar Jackson. I would just say less so than if you were to say, let's tailor this offense to Aaron Rodgers.
Would you give pick 14 for him?
No, I know, and that's probably what it would take. And I would say no, and then you say, well, then it's not happening.
Well, that's what the Jets are dealing with right now with the Packers.
Right.
But I just think with this whole offseason, the only thing that I keep coming back to is not necessarily about Aaron Rodgers specifically, but doesn't the whole offseason make a lot more sense if you drop in a proven franchise quarterback into what they've done? Because I personally feel like they've approached this offseason like they still have Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. Right, we're going to sign.
Our quarterback's going to lift all these guys
Right, we're going to
up.
sign Juju. We're going to sign Mike Gesicki. We're going to trade out Damian Harris for James Robinson. We're going to bring in some veteran tackles. This is what teams that feel like the quarterback is doing the heavy lifting are doing, and that's I think where my frustration has been with their entire offseason is that there's either two schools. Either you're operating with the quarterback is going to drive the bus, or you're operating like the supporting cast is going to drive the bus. And right now they are building a team that the quarterback needs to drive the bus, but you don't have a bus driver at quarterback. So how do you get around that?
Which makes that report about Max so much more interesting.
It does. And I keep having this conversation with people. I'm like, when I go into the locker room and I talk to our defense about the opposing team's quarterback, they always have something to say. His arm, his legs, he can do both. When you look at Mac, what can you say? What challenges you when you're playing Mac?
Yeah, I get a lot of those questions too of what's the path? With Mac Jones, how are you competitive with him, just assuming that he looks like he did his rookie season, and that's the best it's going to get. And I look at teams like San Francisco and like Miami, I'd also throw them in there too, that are taking what I think is pretty average quarterback situations and adding Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Teron Armstead and making that quarterback look like he's an MVP.
That's why he looked so great at Alabama, because he had great coaching and outstanding pieces around him.
And I think that he can still do that in the pros, but you have to have outstanding pieces around him, and this team doesn't. Yeah. So if I think that's the difference, and I think Philly is a good example of maybe you're still lukewarm on your quarterback, and then all of a sudden AJ Brown comes to town, and now you're all set. You're like, oh, Jalen Hurts is our guy. So it can go both ways. You can either just drag the quarterback through the playoffs, or you can actually bring out a Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts type breakout out of your QB by surrounding him. And right now this team is operating like they still have Tom Brady.
Let's jump back to the phones. We got Eric here in New Jersey, and I'd like to say Eric Scalavino would approve he spells his name the correct way, with Eric with a K. At least that's how Matt wrote it. So.
Hey, how you doing? You guys hear me?
Hey, Eric.
Hey, can you hear me?
A little echoey, but we got you.
All right, hold on. Let me. You guys hear me now? Better now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I just kind of want to talk about, you guys kind of stay on Mac here. And like I said, you guys are touching on 2020. Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, as you guys are touching on 2021, I was trying to figure out at what point. Hold on, I can't even.
Yeah, we got you. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure out at what point, at what game do you see Mac? Like, what's the hallmark game from Mac that you've seen from these last 2 years? Again, I mean, you could throw in all the extracurriculars from last season. Then again, I look back at that game on 2021, and you look at the Bills game where you only had Mac throw 3 times in inclement weather. And again, you're not saying you're going to get that type of win. But again, there's too much air under his throws. And again, at what point in 2 seasons have you seen a hallmark game like this game from Mac, where you sit here and say, all right, you can win behind him? Because again, if you give any other guy, I mean, most guys, if you can give them all the tools, all the weapons, yeah, I'm sure they can get you into the playoffs. But what is it about Mac that you've seen in these last years? Because I can't figure it out.
No.
I don't see, obviously, the talent. I see too much air under the throws, like Paul would say. And there's not one game. He had one game last year, the Minnesota game, where he could have took it over in the fourth quarter, won. Still hasn't. We beat the Texans on the fourth quarter comeback. I mean, so what is it that you guys see, and what's the hallmark game that you take from Mac that you can sit here and say, what is it that we have something here where we can compete?
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
But I just, does it matter?
No,
does it really matter at the end of the day?
No,
because I think the one game that I would point to that I thought Mac really made himself look like a viable quarterback was Cleveland.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
In 2021, when he threw the seam to Bourne, where it had some pace on it, and
to Hunter Henry.
Yeah, that was, I think, his best game as a pro. But the whole point that I was making before about, look at the Niners, like Jimmy G and Brock Purdy. Like, are you going to sit here and tell me that Jimmy G has got anything special going on about him as
like a signature win,
right? Or a moment, or even just like a trait that you're like, oh wow, like that makes Jimmy G stand out. And they dragged his butt all the way to a Super Bowl, and they probably should have won the Super Bowl that they got to. So, there's 2 different ways to do it. It doesn't have to be the quarterback being Tom Brady and carrying the team with you. It doesn't. We've seen it work in other ways where the quarterback is a little bit lesser than and isn't necessarily the one driving the bus. So the whole, what have you seen from Mac? I've seen that Mac can be a serviceable NFL quarterback when the situation and environment allows him to be. And that can be good enough if you're built up in other places on the roster.
Yeah, I would just, and I hate to compare people to Tom Brady because it's Tom Brady, but him being in the second year, he sat his whole first year. In his second year, you saw an overtime win against the Chargers. I mean, you just all of a sudden you started to see him growing into what he would eventually become. Now, this is the greatest player of all time. It's it's not apples to apples, but at the same time, I understand what the fans want. They want to say, where can I look? We've had this guy for 2 years now. What can I point to and say, all right, if we can expand upon that, if we can feature that, if we can put players around him that can help that, then maybe we're on the correct trajectory. And so from that respect, I kind of get it. I get what people are looking for, just a glimmer of hope, a glimmer of, this is what he can do. And I mean, I go back to what kind of Tamara brought up with, what made him good in college, those things. And like you said, he had the pieces.
He had everything.
And that it highlighted his smarts and his, I think his accuracy has been pretty good, as one of his strengths. So it's just hard because those things, you got a great processor, like it doesn't always translate. It's not always like, oh, there it is. So hopefully with Bill O'Brien, and I think that's why, unfortunately, you have nothing else to really trumpet right now. That's what you have to point to. And you say, all right, well, now Bill O'Brien's going to give Mac the answers to the test, and he's going to be able to execute those with his ability to process and understand the game. That's what the hope is. But, to Evan's point, does it really matter if it's, he's getting out the ball on time and a correctly run route to Juju Smith-Schuster? Is that going to make enough difference against teams like Buffalo, against teams like Cincinnati, against teams like Kansas City, all the elite teams of the AFC?
Eventually, you got to put an end to a problem that's going on a half decade now of.
So you draft Zay Flowers, you're saying?
Us looking at their offense on paper in August and saying, nope, don't have enough, right? They don't have enough firepower. They're not going to hang. And this goes back to Tom Brady's last year. And I would say that there was even inklings of it in 18. And I think that Brady and Gronk and Edelman turned back the clock one more time in the playoff run in 18, especially in Kansas City. But that team in 18 had issues on offense throughout the regular season, to the point where Josh Gordon all of a sudden became this viable asset for them, because that's what they were searching for, was something else, because Gronk was, battered and starting to slow down a little bit, and Edelman was still Edelman, but they really didn't have anything else, and they had to make the move for Josh Gordon. And so this is 18. I would say it started. 19 was when it was really bad, and it's been kind of really bad since then. So at some point, you got to put an end to this rut.
Yeah, I think, in order to get what Mr. Kraft said he wanted, at the owners' meetings, and that's getting to the playoffs this year, you have two choices. You either trade Mac and you get this generational veteran quarterback that's going to get you there right now, or you go out and spend some money to get those outstanding pieces for Mac to be great. Because at this point, with where the roster stands right now, I'm just not confident enough in his traits and this roster to get them where Mr. Kraft wants them to be.
That's why I feel a little bit like maybe there was some substance to these Mac rumors, but now they have to backtrack because it didn't work out, and you can't bring Mac back after this is all confirmed. You have to backtrack on it.
Yeah. And I mean, and to the point of it's silly season with the draft, it's also the time when deals happen and things happen, and 07, Randy Moss, this is when
some dominoes need to fall.
You've heard all these guys of, is Hopkins going to get released? Is Odell's price going to come down? All those different things. It's all going to happen in the next few weeks, and there, who knows? There could be some splashy moves still coming for this team that maybe changes where we're sitting right now. But
I also don't like the reports that come out like this, because teams talk to other teams about a laundry list of players, and those conversations can range from a deal getting done to, is Mac Jones available? Nope. Okay, let's move on to the next guy, right? So they talk to teams about Mac Jones, or shopping Mac Jones. That is such a loose term that there's so much nuance and so much degrees in there of, okay, was Bill calling people and saying, hey, Mac's available, what would you offer? Or was they saying, how do you guys feel about Mac right now? And maybe Bill was a little bit lukewarm on the phone, like he's been with us, but it wasn't like we're dangling him out there for you to come and grab him.
Yeah, and to that point, I always feel like when there's, the Patriots are interested in this guy. The Patriots are there's always an element of due diligence that any team should be doing. Previously, that's the Patriots being interested in a guy was sound the red alert, all right, the Patriots might get this guy. Teams might scramble that were chasing the team back then, but I think everything is with a grain of salt here over these last few weeks.
I like that you said that, Mike, with the grain of salt, because it's even if Bill did say Mac is our guy, we've seen coaches say so-and-so is our guy.
Right, that's great.
Like the Jets.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold's our guy. 2 seconds later. Zach Wilson is our guy. 2 seconds. It's just you've seen coaches say, this is our guy. We're not interested in Deshaun Watson. We're not interested in this person, that person. And then it turns out they were.
I know. Well,
so you have to take everything. You have to take the lukewarm with a grain of salt. And then you also have to take the people who are claiming this person is our guy with a grain of salt. Because at the end of the day, they still could change their mind.
Let's jump back to the phones and head down to Georgia, where we got Jody. Hey, Jody, how's it going?
Hey, doing good, guys. How y'all doing?
Good. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, I just kind of want to take it back to the draft a little bit.
Sure.
I just had a question. We all know how bad Bill missed in 2019 with Nikhil. Do you guys think there's this pressure on Bill, I can't miss if I take a receiver? He's I'm big on Zay or JSN. I'm good with either of those guys. But I feel like he's going to go more towards tackle or defense. Take the safe pick, because if he misses big in the first round again, that he's kind of standing on one leg.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're putting in the work on Zay Flowers, it seems.
I just feel like
Thanks,
that's and I totally hear what the caller is saying, but I do kind of feel like that's a little bit of a loser's mindset. How do you can't let past mistakes dictate the right decision in the future. And I'm not saying that Zay, just because I love him, is the only option for them in the draft, but I think allowing the 2019 draft to follow you years later to the point where you're not willing to take a receiver early because you missed 4 years ago, I just don't know if that's really great process. If you're
I mean, maybe you could say, hey, let's not draft a big receiver who's a blocker.
Mike,
I mean,
let's not.
There's no real comparison between the kind of player that Zay Flowers and N'Keal Harry are in any way.
And I kind of feel the same way about Tyquan, even though I think the jury's definitely still out on that pick. He was definitely a departure from N'Keal Harry, Chad Jackson, Aaron Dobson as well. I mean, he's 180 pounds soaking wet and ran a 4.2. So he's nothing like those guys. So I think that they are recognizing a little bit that they have to depart from that.
Well, we were talking to N'Keal Harry, and of course, you know what that means. Eldred's calling in. Hey, Eldred, what's going on?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
Good.
Hi.
Thanks for calling in.
Hi.
Yes, Fred ain't there, is he?
No Fred.
No, they're at the Hall of Fame vote, so it's just Deuce and the kids.
The kids. Okay, Deuce and the kids. I got a question for
Sounds
y'all.
wrong.
Everybody keep holding Bill, which I'm holding Bill for not acknowledging last season. But Fred keeps saying he talked to the team, so he started his bag, but I don't think he did that. Do y'all think so?
What did he apologize? Like apologize to the team or admit fault?
Yeah, for last year. For last year, but the boxer.
Yeah. That's a great question, Eldred.
I don't think he did, because he sure didn't qualify.
Yeah.
He sure didn't. To Mac Jones, didn't say I'm sorry or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
can you just say sorry? Is it that hard?
It's a good.
That's what I'm saying. It's that hard.
Well, and I mean, and he said, if it doesn't work, blame me. So I think everybody kind of would like that. That hey, just acknowledging that it didn't work. And even I think when you heard from Robert, like it's like. We had some offensive changes that, in my opinion, didn't work last year. It's like I think everyone else kind of like just acknowledges it as fact. But to your point, Eldred, does this team need a reset right now? Do they need to like have maybe a big move, or I don't know if it's some kind of back to Bill moment? Like I feel like you're onto something.
Yeah. One more thing, and then I'm gonna let you go. Two more things.
Okay.
I think Bill won the first 3 Super Bowl off of Bill Parcells boys. This draft. And everything, the team, he lined it up. That's why he came back from the Jets to New England, because he saw the talent. The only one he added was Brady and Seymour. But maybe a couple more picks too, but those 2 were the main 2. But for that emailer yesterday, I don't know who a heel was. I did ask for a Patterson, because back then he was the wide receiver. Chicago used him as a gadget that would screw them up.
Yeah.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
I also put a ban for Hopkins when he first came out. I also banned for Jason Williams, and Avile, and some more people. But don't hold my feet to nothing, because, like I said, I'm man enough to know what I said and what I didn't say.
Eldred's got the receipts.
Yeah, we got you.
He's willing to.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Eldred. Well, whoever called in and tried to call Eldred out, you better.
Oh yeah, we had an emailer that mentioned Eldred's misses in the draft, which we've all had our aplenty in that category.
What's your what miss are you most proud of, Evan? Like what's a guy that you were high on or not high on that ended up being good? I'll just give you one quick one. Was I didn't want to draft Dante Hightower because we had Brandon Spikes. That was me. That
was me.
Hi, it's me. That was the problem there.
I don't know. I mean, there's a million. There's definitely guys that I was super high on in the draft, and for example, like Calvin Ridley's brother, Riley Ridley. I just thought he was Calvin Ridley, right? Like I was like, oh, he's a Ridley, and he looks decent on film, and I don't even think he's on an NFL roster anymore. Just not an NFL player. So that one was bad. There's a few of those. I think a lot of the time with the draft, you see guys that are dominant at the college level, and I think a big question that you have to ask, and I think that they probably do this in a much more detailed manner than I do, is why? Like, why didn't N'Keal Harry work out? Like, what were the real core things? Not necessarily, what we all think, but what were the real core things that led to that pick not working out, and then you try to course correct, as best as you can. So I think with N'Keal, that's got to be a learning process, right?
I mean, how much of an indictment is it too? And we all watched what these guys did for the Patriots, but both Isaiah Wynn and N'Keal Harry aren't even on teams anymore. I mean, these guys were first-round picks a couple years ago. And even if you didn't think N'Keal Harry was a first-round pick, you probably at least thought, hey, he's got size. You know, you could do something with him. It's just it's striking to me that those guys are out of, especially with Wynn, like how bad teams need tackles right now.
I'm sure Wynn will sign after the draft. I think that happens a lot, right?
Where see who we get, and then we'll bring him in. But even still, like he was a first-round pick. Like you know, it's just
and showed ability. Like Isaiah Wynn was a better player than N'Keal for the Patriots, right? So
just got hurt a lot.
Yeah,
same thing. You know, couldn't really find that momentum. I think another point I just wanted to bring up too about this is like, imagine if like you go to a college business class or you know an economics class and you're like, this guy's killing it in my economics class. All right, well, how's he going to be when he comes and works for me at an accounting firm? You know, like it's so hard to project just people in general going from being students to like, this is a professional environment. This is a job, especially here where it seems even more intense and everybody kind of says like, you know, you are just on your toes every minute that you're inside this building. But I think that's just a natural element too outside of football. It's just some people, they get into a professional environment, they got to understand how to budget their time and their money and their lives and their personal lives and, you know, what they're doing. I think it's a challenge that, you know, it's easy to talk about football and, well, he just couldn't play. Like, but I think there are other things too that, you know, you could point to.
That's the hardest part for us, is that we don't really know these guys, right? And we don't really have the resources to learn them inside and out like NFL teams do. So for me, I'm really just going off of what I see on the field for the most part. Like, sure, I talked to a guy for 10 minutes at the Combine or at the Shrine Bowl or something like that, but you're really just going off of feel about the player on the field. And they're things like with you know N'Keal, you know, that you hear about you know the work ethic and maybe not being destined to be great, like just doesn't have that drive to want to get there. Like we would never have known that, you know, going into the draft. So
that's why, like, even tough. Like it's superficial, but even being at the Combine, I just like that element of it. I just like getting to see these guys. What are they like? I mean, some guys were so nervous up there. I'm trying to remember which. I think it was one of the Oregon offensive linemen.
Yeah, he was nervous though because English wasn't his first language.
Oh, really? All right, then I take it back. I take it back. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I was like, oh my gosh, he seems like he's about to like combust right now. He was. So I'm glad I didn't remember his name, so I don't have to get in trouble for it. But let's jump over here now to Todd in North Carolina. Hey, Todd.
So I got just 2 quick points. The first one is I really agree with Fred's idea of somebody being tested this year and will come out, and if they come out of this one, it'll be really something they prove. And I don't think it's our quarterback. I think it's our coach. That's the first part. And the second part, the simple part, is actually something Deuce hit on, and so did a couple other people there. Brady's second year was really good, but we forget just the cast Brady had around him. In order for somebody to grow and get into the league, because, you know, Brady was great, but he was able to grow with such talent around him, and you cannot say that was not a factor in his greatness.
Well,
being able to have that
in 01 really offensively, like, I mean, I
think it's such a different time period.
That's fair.
Well, exactly.
That's
fair. What he needed around him then and what Mac needs around him now are not comparable.
I just I was watching some old Deion Branch highlights the other day. Because it's like, you know, I wanted to go back and be like, all right, well, that was a receiver that they hit on, right? They drafted him in the second round and they hit on the player.
Right in.
And it was too funny because you're watching this speedy, undersized receiver, and they're in these heavy personnel groupings, under center, like 12, 21 personnel groupings, and he's split out wide. And you're like, if you were playing nowadays, you would be in the slot, you'd be, you know, in a 11 personnel grouping, and you'd be running Edelman routes, right? Like you wouldn't be running these vertical post routes out of heavy packages, and Brady's taking these 7 and 9 step drops and throwing the ball deep. So it was just such a different game back then that I think back then they had enough on offense, but if you had that offense today, like that,
it's probably worse than this.
Yeah, we're talking about what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. I do think they had the defense, you have to acknowledge that they had great pieces. And I mean, and to push back on the earlier caller who said like he did it on Parcells, like the free agency class that they signed that year was a huge impact on that team. So, I mean, I get, like, and I said earlier with Parcells, like, he certainly planted some seeds with that team with Malloy and Law and Brewski and McGinnis. But, you know, the Pfeiffers, the Vrabels, you know, the Otis Smiths, like those guys that they brought in and coached up and then made them.
So I always forget, were Seymour and Matt Light the same draft class?
Yep, both 01.
Right, so that,
both
I mean,
rookies. So you're rookie.
That draft class is, that's your left tackle and your best defensive player.
Right out of the gate, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, imagine, I mean, it's not totally different than what we're talking about right now, where it's like, imagine if they got 2 impact starters, I mean, long-term impact starters. Richard Seymour is a Hall of Fame player.
Right.
You know, I mean, these are the kind of things I think that this team needs. And I don't want to go as far as, you know, what the earlier caller said about, is he, you know, coach, you know, does he absolutely feeling the pressure to hit on this? I don't think so, but I feel the pressure of this needs to be a good draft. And I mean, it's, you know, when you look at 2022's draft, I feel like there's so much uncertainty there. I feel so much uncertainty about last year's draft class. I could go either way on Thornton, Strong, Harris, Cole Strange. I mean, I think Cole Strange, probably his floor is pretty decent. I think he's going to be probably the tackle here for the next 3 seasons. Guard, you know, but I don't know about anybody else. I really don't. I don't even know with Zappy. Like, how much do you really feel confident about that class yet? Whereas, you know, even, and you could even go to 2021 with Barmore got hurt last year. We wanted more out of him. Mac didn't really, you know, there are a lot of issues there, but, you know, Ramondre is kind of the key piece that you feel like you hit on. But I'll continue to say I think the draft is the only way out of this thing.
I think Ramondre and then Marcus Jones are like my 2 that from the past 2 years
Marcus,
that I'm like,
you got to bring up Marcus Jones.
Yeah, Marcus Jones, I feel like he could end up being a guy that's going to be here for a while, just because of his versatility and his ability to, you know, help special teams, especially that's been kind of struggling, especially with last season.
I think to your point, Tamara, too, that he's the kind of guy, I don't want to say you build a team around, but he's the kind of guy that is a marketable, marquee kind of player, where you say the Patriots have a guy who plays all 3 ways, you know, that kind of thing, and is able to make an impact in all 3 areas. I think he could be something special and something that, you know, that this team needs when we talk about. It's not just about trying to win. It's also trying to get fans to get excited to come to watch training camp, you know, to put butts in the seats to at least come see these guys play. All right, hey, they're probably not going to win the Super Bowl, but I got to get out to camp this year because they have this generational kind of player that's just so special. And I'm excited to go to training camp just to watch Marcus Jones return punts, you know, like that kind of thing. I think they need more guys like that, marketable guys. You know?
That's the biggest thing to me, is that I feel like there were, in 2020, the training camp was such a weird environment to begin with.
So bizarre.
So I don't even know if it counts, but I think there were moments early on from Kyle Duggar in 2020 training camp where you're like, okay, this guy's different. Like, he moves differently. He, you know, this is going to be good, but I haven't felt like, you know, hearing Bill talk about you know, guys like Richard Seymour or you know, the McCourty Gronkowski class, where they got to training camp and like 2 days into training camp they're just like laughing at how good Richard Seymour is. Like, when's the last time that you can say that about a Patriots draft pick, that you got to training camp and on day 1 of camp, the media, the coaches, everybody is just like, holy crap, like, this guy is just an unbelievable football player. And when you pick at 14, like, you should be able to come out with a guy that we're all saying in mini camp, like, wait until you guys see Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like, this is going to be fun. I really can't think of one in my time covering the team that they've had one of those guys where it's just like, instantly, like, yes, like that's going to be a great pick.
I mean, I think to your point, Evan, I mean, you're talking about guys in the top half of the draft where they haven't picked a lot, and so you're saying Seymour had that. I would even say Mayo kind of had it. Like, I don't know it to the same extent, but I think everybody kind of acknowledged right out of the gate, like, they got a good linebacker. You know, and Mac. I mean, Mac, for, you know, all this kind of warts that we have right now, I think, you know, early on it seemed like, hey, this kid can play in this league. He didn't look rattled. You know, he came in and he, as a quarterback, and I always compared just to, you know, what I saw the most of, which was Jarrett Stidham the year before, and it was like, oh boy, like, you know, if the first guy wasn't there, it's getting ugly quick. And Mac, I was remarkable to me right out of the gate in, like, whatever that first mini camp was, where it's like, there's chaos going around him, but he's still able to kind of hang in there and get the ball out.
I just feel like when you hear about these guys, like Seymour is, you know, going back a ways, but even just in other camps around the league, when you hear the buzz starting about, Sauce Gardner in New York, and he's just out there just putting clamps on everybody that goes up against him, or, whoever. And I feel like that has not happened. Like, yeah, we've seen flashes. Like, I think Taekwon flashed at times in camp last year. He had his moments, but it wasn't like a dominant every single day this guy is a factor on the field.
I feel like Zay Flowers is like a guy that could do that. Just because like for example, when he finally practiced at the Shrine Bowl, I feel like the sidelines were like buzzing, like just all about him. I feel like could be that guy if he's picked at 14.
That's what they need. Let's just grab Melvin here before we break for lunch. Hey Melvin, thanks for holding on.
What's up, y'all? What's going on?
We're just powering through here with our fearless leaders.
I got you. The quick point that I was going to talk, I guess you all just kind of spoke on a little bit, but I think overall, like, fans are desperate for, like, young players, right?
Yeah.
So they're just, constantly looking for, let's say, for example, I could use him, Ramondre Stevenson, for example. You like them, and the Myers of the world and all those people like that. Like, we like them, they're good players and everything like that, but there comes a point that we have to realize, I guess, that those particular players like really going to help us go to the next level. So it's a tough position for, I guess, the coaches to be in, because you got to make that decision, because fans are just, like you just talked about, just extremely desperate, and we don't want to let these players go, because they're good players. They are good players, but the money gets involved and everything like that factors into it. So even somebody like Stevenson, we just drafted 2 running back, recently. So even though he is a good player and can do all these things for us, is that the right decision? Do we need to pay him the money, et cetera, et cetera? And it's just going to be it's a tough position, because I feel like when his contract is up, for example, the fans are going to just react the same way. I think a lot of people are going to be wanting to keep him, but where are we going, long term? Yeah. And there's just a lot of players like that. The Duggars, the Uches, like, do we need to sign these people? Are they good for the team? Are we good for us going forward? Or do we need to try to, let them go and try to average might not be good enough. We need to be looking for stars, somebody to build around, and those are the ones we need to be signing. And some of the ones not really the average player. I would say average, but players not willing. Players need to be on another level for us to go to the next level.
Yeah.
So those are the players we need to be going after.
Yeah, I think
that's it.
That
Thanks,
speaks to the old Dante Hightower being the last first-round pick to get a second contract with the Patriots. Dante Hightower, he just retired from the league. Like, that's 10 years ago. And I look at Kyle Duggar.
11.
I think Kyle Duggar is a guy that could be a second contract guy. It's going to be that caveat that he was a second-round pick and not a first-round pick, but that's besides the point. But I think that Kyle Duggar has that star potential in him. Ramondre is a running back, so that gets into the whole value thing and second contracts and all that kind of stuff. But this is what we're talking about. Alex and I always talk about Tuesday players. Like, who's Tamara's point, right? Like, who's going in the Tuesday meeting when they're playing the Patriots, and you put the offense up on the board for the coaching staff. Who are we circling? Like, who's the guy that you absolutely have to stop? And I think a lot of these coaching staffs are saying, nobody.
Exactly.
Like, we're not.
Just do what we do.
Just do what we do. Yeah. And I think defensively, Judon, I think Duggar, I think Barmore and Uche, when it's a passing situation, you got to know where those guys are and know how they rush. But offensively, that cupboard is bare. And I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster is changing that as much as I like him as a player.
Yeah, it's. I think, and we'll go to break here. It's a great point by Melvin that I brought up before. It's for the fans, it's continuity. It's like, who's our team? Who's our core? Like, what's our personality? And I feel like we talk about the early 2000 Patriots. Like, you go into every game and you're like, we got Willie McGinnis, we got Teddy Bruschi, we got Ty Law, we got Laurie Malloy. These guys have been here for
and
6, 7, 8
watch
years.
Them, like, grow up.
Right, they're just part of the fabric of the team. And I think right now they're at a point where there isn't really any of those guys. And I think this year I was kind of, and I'm still kind of waiting to see, is Kyle Duggar that guy? Now's the time. Are we going to let him get to free agency next year? Now, to make the point in the opposite end, you got Jabril Peppers, you got Josh Bledsoe. I mean, like, it just seems like they continue. We did a safeties preview for the draft. There's a Brian Branch. I mean, there are so many of these guys available. It's like,
I would just hate to do that, though.
Yeah, no, I hear your point, and that's
a guy that you identified that was a little bit off the beaten path, being from Lenore Rhine. And you were right about him, that his athleticism and his skill translated to the league. And he's still got some warts in his game. Like, I don't think that he's perfect yet, but the playmaking is all the way there. You know, I mean, 4 defensive touchdowns is 4 defensive touchdowns. And that's a guy that I think that you should be trying to build around, especially now that Devin McCourty's retired. Like, he should be taking and I'm not asking him to give those rah-rah speeches that Devin gave and stuff like that.
That's not him.
But in terms of on the field and in between the lines, like, that should be your next generation. And at some point, to your point, they have to stick with some of these guys, and you can't just keep on turning them out, because you do have to have
too many holes. Too many holes. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Thank you for all the awesome emails, though. There are plenty of great ones. Can't wait to get to those. We will do that right after this quick break.
The network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G Ultra Wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G Ultra Wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes.
Oh no.
Replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season, and there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week, so head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible!
No way! As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance!
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Want to get into the game? Get coached up at Dean College. Equipped with exclusive academic partnerships featuring the Patriots, Revolution, Providence Bruins, summer baseball, and more, our classrooms are set up for success by learning directly from the pros. Dean College has programs in communications, sports management, business, and marketing with unprecedented hands-on experiences. Our students take what they learn in the classroom and put it right to work in the marketplace. At Dean College, our students don't just play games, we run them. Visit us at dean.edu.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G ultra wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G ultra wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment day in and day out to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season, and there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week, so head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible!
No way! As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance!
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
And now, great moments in history.
Time of day, like second, minute,
hour.
Oh, is the H in that word silent?
It is.
They all sound the same to me.
Yeah, that's the difference. Hour.
You are correct, Mike.
Hour.
To most of us,
Is it our house or our house?
Our house.
No, it isn't.
Yes,
our
it is.
house.
In the middle of the street.
Eric, you know what a dictionary is.
You just
look it up.
You just completely butchered the name
How
of
many-
a town in Massachusetts on a call earlier
How
this
many
morning
syllables?
that you should easily know.
Look it up, Eric.
Gloucester.
Don't take my word.
I live in Gloucester, Mass.
Eric, don't take my word for it.
Gloucester.
Eric, do not take my word for it.
I don't.
Look
I
it
don't
up.
take your word for anything.
Look it up. How many syllables does OUR have? Look it up.
I don't have a dictionary in front of me.
I
have one upstairs.
You don't have one printed out?
We have this thing called the internet, Look it up. Don't take my word for it.
Matt, go ahead. Look it up.
How many syllables in the word OUR?
And what are you saying? One?
One. Yeah.
He's saying that the word ARE and OUR are pronounced exactly the same.
R.
Ow.
One. One. There you go. And there it is.
Our.
Paul?
And there it is.
Paul?
He's trying to do technology right now.
Our.
Who's saying that?
Our.
Somebody from China?
That's the dictionary. The dictionary pronunciation key.
You told me to look it up. I looked it up in the dictionary, and it has the pronunciation.
How many
the audible.
syllables?
Hour.
He just said one.
Well, I'm just playing.
Are you I'm not listening to the pronunciation?
Let me see that.
Hour.
Let me see it. Hold on.
So Fred's picking up the phone now.
It has the little.
One syllable.
It has the little pronunciation guide.
One syllable.
How you pronounce it?
Did you hear how it was pronounced?
It's one
I
syllable.
don't care how many syllables it is. It's pronounced hour.
Yeah.
Hour. It is not hour.
That's another great moment from
Oh boy, that's a moment that's going to live rent-free in my
I'm
head
so
forever.
mad.
That's the
about
best snippet
that.
in a minute.
I am so agitated by that whole thing, and I wasn't even there.
I'm sad that my joke towards Eric fell a little flat, which was you don't have one printed, because Eric will print everything. Like, if we were going to talk about an article that Mike Florio had written about Mac, like he would have come down with it printed out. So he had no problem killing trees, but yeah,
that's my mom. She has to print everything, every receipt, every email. I'm like, you don't need that printed. You have your phone.
Just scan it. Come on, scan it. All right, let's jump over to some emails now, because there are a lot of emails coming through, and I think there's some good ones here. I'm going to try to pick some spots. I mean, a couple people emailed in games that I got to be honest, nobody here is going to get. So I'm going to save those ones for the old guys, Paul and Fred. Hopefully they'll go back through. I thought this was a good one just to point out. This is Franklin in Baltimore. He's saying, I remember the buzz around Chandler Jones being, did I say Chandler? I got that right. I did. Okay. I say, you haven't heard this yet? I say Chandler. I can't get it right. I can't get it right. There's a street in LA too that's like Chandler Boulevard, and I was driving there after this had already come out on the show that I can't say Chandler, and I looked up and I'm like, oh, here's Chandler, and I'm like, damn it.
So when you hear like Monica and
Chandler, yeah, I know.
Why I'm saying what way?
what way? So Chandler, it's just a lot of effort. The cha-cha-cha. Chandler Jones being pretty loud during his first training camp. Yeah, that's why it also especially hurt when he was traded, at least to me, because Jones was exactly the type of instant impact player the current team needs.
I can't believe we traded that DNA
Great.
out of this franchise still.
We all know when it was over for Chandler Jones.
Yeah, that was
K2.
an unfortunate end to it. But I mean, I remember having the debate. You brought up Dante Hightower as the last one. I remember debating like, well, actually, I take that back, because that was more Jamie Collins Hightower thing. I was like, who would you keep if you had to Sophie's choice those guys? Which one would you kind of retain?
They kept the right one.
Yeah. And then they got Jamie Collins back for like
seven
or 8 more
Yeah.
times. So it all worked out. All right, I'm gonna read this one. I just like the beginning of it, but I don't know where it's going. It's Linda in Boston. Though Evans' head explodes, that's what you got me. Like, though Evans' head explodes at the thought, winning through a run-first offense appears to be on the table. Taylor Kyles, Evans' successor at CLNS, has taken the time to look at the positive possibilities for competitive offense should the Patriots draft a generational running back in the first round. Evan, I'm just gonna before you go after this, I'm just gonna connect it to. I still feel like they want to attack small defenses, and if they did do this, which I don't think they will, and I think this is a smokescreen, but if they did, that would feed into that narrative.
Okay, so there's a million different directions I can go with this. The main thing that I will say about it is that I think people need to recognize that teams like San Francisco, who I feel like is always the team that people butt me with on this conversation, right? Where it's like, oh, you can't build a run-first offense anymore, Evan. Yeah, but what about the Niners? The Niners have easily one of the most efficient passing games in the entire NFL. So their foundational elements in their run game are to set up the passing game off of play action and similar looks that make it all look the same, and then they hit them down the field, and that's how they really put up points on the board. Their passing game is what wins them football games. Their run game is how they set up their passing game. So either way, we're still ultimately getting to the same place. Whether you end up running the ball a little bit more than another team or whatever, you're still ending up to the point where it's 3rd and 7 and it's the fourth quarter and it's a tie game and you need a first down and your quarterback and your receivers have to make a play. Okay? And the Niners ran into the same problem in the Super Bowl where they couldn't make the play, and the Kansas City Chiefs come back and they're the ones hoisting the trophies. So ultimately speaking, everybody needs to effectively pass to win in this league. And if you go out and you start investing in using resources on running backs in the first round of the NFL draft, then you are still never going to get there on that side of the football to where you ultimately need to be. So that's the big picture of it. The other thing is that I hear, and I love you, Taylor. I do. I like you a lot. But he put out a bunch of this stuff about, like, oh, well, imagine all the 2 running back sets that they could use with Ramondre and Bijan Robinson. What is this, Navy in the 1950s? Like, what do you mean? We're going to run the wishbone now?
Single wing.
So we're going to go into Buffalo against Josh Allen in a need-to-win game just like last year at the end of the season to make the playoffs, and he's going to come out in the wing tee.
Well, it would work if there was a windstorm.
To be fair, Mac Jones did run the wing tee in high school. He likes to tell us that all the time when we talk to him about playing under center. Like, that's the biggest challenge that I have with this whole thing is that if the only way that you can beat a good team, name a good team, Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, if the only way that you can win is holding them in the teens and running clock, you are never going to beat those teams. You are never going to beat them. And maybe you can beat them once in a blue moon any given Sunday, like in the windstorm in Buffalo a couple years ago. You can sneak one past them. But if you're trying to beat Josh Allen 17-14 and ball control and possession and run clock and all those types of things, you are going to lose a lot. You just can't do that anymore. And the notion that could work is absolutely mind-blowing to me.
Also, I would not, as a fan, want to go to a game and watch that, personally. That's, like, not aesthetically pleasing. That does not get, butts in seats. Sorry,
Chicks
it doesn't.
dig the deep ball.
I got this pushback, too, because everybody was like, well, who cares about how they win, Tamara? If they win, they win.
No, we care.
It's just, it's an outdated thought process to think that you can win football games like that anymore. And I think a lot of people look at Tennessee from a few years ago, San Francisco, and they say, see, it can work. And it's like those teams were ultra efficient on play action passes and extremely good at throwing the football. They just didn't throw the football in the volumes that other teams maybe threw it in.
Yeah, I mean, I thought your point about the Rutgers kid Pacheco, on Twitter was apt, and I've brought it up many times. I don't want to be I love Derrick Henry. We all know I love Derrick Henry, but I don't want to be the Derrick Henry team. I don't want to be the Christian McCaffrey team.
No.
Where like, all right, it's going to be awesome until he gets dinged up, and then we're like just powerless to do anything. Like, it's nice when you get those guys, but like you said, they got a 7th round guy who gets it done. I can criticize the Patriots for a lot. Their way they do running backs is not one of them. Like
No. And that's why this would be such an outlier for them. I know Bijan Robinson's an exceptional talent. He's probably the best running back that I've seen come into the draft since Saquon, and he's unbelievable. But
Saquon got he had one amazing season, and then now I'm like,
yeah,
what's
now
happening?
he's a piece of the
right.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like not. I really hope they don't do that at 14.
That's what I like. What happened with him was like the team was all around him. He got hurt. They couldn't rely on him. Not that they found really a lot else, but they did figure out a way to at least be competitive without him. And then he comes back, and you're like, oh, now he's a nice piece to add into this, and he doesn't have to be the guy anymore.
Yes,
I'm a fan of that. But I wonder with Stevenson, is there a running back that could change this for them? Is there a running back that they would say, you know what, we usually don't give second contracts to running backs, but you're special. You fit in really well.
If
you can do it all.
And that's the other thing. And I think the Giants feel trapped in that scenario as well, even though it's a different regime in New York, which I think they should think about. Like, we didn't draft Saquon Barkley at the 2nd overall pick. It's not our fault that happened. But with the Patriots, it's like if you draft Bijan Robinson at 14 in 4 or 5 years, are you going to give him the second contract just because you feel obligated to give him the second contract because he probably is going to be pretty darn good in his rookie contract? But look at with Dallas and Zeke. He's not even the best running back on the team anymore.
No. Yeah.
Tony Pollard's better than him.
And I mean, you're already talking about the 5th-year option, like what you're going to have to pay a running back on the 5th-year option. Like, that seems crazy. Alex in Charlotte writes in, Charlotte?
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Oh. It's like an S.
Oh.
Why I'm saying what?
The shoe's on the other foot.
It's tough.
Like the name Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Good Charlotte.
Good Charlotte.
It's like chocolate. It's not chocolate. It's chocolate.
It'll be chocolat.
It's chocolate.
Oh
I'm a young Patriots fan, so all I've known all my life is Tom Brady. But the first season I can really recall was the 2006 season, losing to the AFC Championship with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. To then follow that with 07, which Alex brought up with more heartbreak. Looking back now, I would do anything to have seasons like that now, but I think the future is bright, and I believe the team will make strides to get back in there. I like the positivity at the end.
It's a Fred email.
06 was a nightmare for me.
A Fred email.
I did go to that San Diego playoff game, though, and I've always said that was just my favorite experience as a fan. Went through a whole ticket thing. Because I was in California. They were going to release tickets to people who lived in California. Didn't get them. Went back on. I had them. Ticketmaster crashed, as it is wont to do. Lost my tickets. I was apoplectic. Went back in. Got one ticket. Don't know where it is. Bought it. Look. It's like 8 rows in back of the Patriots bench. So I went to that San Diego Patriots playoff game, 8 rows, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be surrounded by Chargers. It was all Patriots fans.
Chargers
it
fans?
Was
What's
awesome.
that?
I know, and they were chirping the whole way down. And, at that point, it was, Tom and Bill had lost one playoff game ever. That was to Denver. That was it. And they were, and they were coming off a great season. Phil Rivers was great, and LaDainian Tomlinson was MVP. I forget how many touchdowns he had, but, then I'm just like, I don't know, dude. You never can rule them out. And they were very confident. But that was a fun one, and we all know 07, which was just an absolute nightmare. So let's go to...
Thanks for bringing those things up.
Yeah, thanks. I know.
Appreciate that.
Going down to North Carolina. Hey, Jerry, how's it going?
What's going on, everybody? Evan.
Yes, sir.
So on last week's Catch-22 session, you had mentioned a wide receiver that I had mentioned to you probably about a month and a half ago, Charlie Jones.
That's the guy.
And you were just gushing over my man. And you put a tweet on Twitter about him.
He's been gushing all over the place about him lately.
Evan has a case of recency bias.
He has a lot of crushes right now.
Right. So I want to throw another name out there for Evan, or 2 names out there for Evan.
I like this.
Just to get a take on these wide receivers. I feel like they'll be later round drafts and give the Patriots the ability to trade back from the first. Darius Davis from TCU, Matt Landers from Arkansas, Matt Landers from Arkansas, and then Jalen Marino Cropper from Fresno. Thanks, y'all.
Oh, thanks, Jerry.
Yeah, the kid from Fresno has got a little bit of buzz. That's the one that I've heard his name a bunch. But I look with Charlie Jones. I think we talked about this maybe on another show, Deuce, when I watched him the first time before the combine, and I just was like, is he actually fast? Like he looks like he's moving fast, but is he just one of these guys that just plays with his hair on fire, and then we get to the combine and he runs a 4.6, right? And that was what I was concerned about with him. But when he put up that time in the combine, he's 4.43. Zay was a 4.42. So the guy was flying at the combine, and I was like, okay, so that speed is real. Like he's got track level speed on top of the fact that he tracks the ball extremely well, great hands, comes in and out of the route better than anybody. If they're going to pass on receivers early and try to go into that like 3rd or 4th round range, I would take Charlie Jones. That'd be my guy.
Another email here. We got to throw some little bit of fire Paul's way. This is Johnny in Madtown writing in. My ears aren't bleeding, and I haven't had to adjust my volume every 5 seconds, so Paul must have the day off from the pod. Good to see the kids all in. Great additions, all of them. Especially love Alex's jokes. There you go.
Wow, thank
jokes.
you.
Making jokes. You got jokes.
Class clown.
Yeah, he just says if the Patriots did move on from Mac, who would the QB be next year? Would they roll with Zappy? Or would they draft Anthony Richardson, who has popped up on a mock draft yesterday? That seems like another one.
That's
like
a pipe dream.
I was talking to someone about this. I think one, if they were to draft a quarterback, like if they kept Mac and they were sold on that, I would see them maybe drafting DTR like late.
Oh, we love us some DTR.
I don't even know how late it's going to be.
I know.
That's the thing.
But I could see them picking him.
Yeah.
I really liked him at the Shrine Bowl. I liked, like, even at the press conferences, he gave me, like, a very much, like, Patriot feel.
Yeah. He's got, he's a 5-year starter at UCLA, friend of Bill, Chip Kelly, that he played under. But that experience and that polish of being a multi-year starter and being a little bit older, Mac, Bailey Zappi, Senior Bowl guys that were around the block a little bit before they came to the pros, that they gravitate towards those types of things. And DTR has got that athleticism to be a little bit more of a mobile passer, runner than what they have currently on the roster. So if you're looking to just try to spread it around a little bit in terms of skill sets and things like that, that's their guy. I can't imagine that if that's the route they want to go, that he's not the pick. I don't know why you would pick. I like Jaren Hall from BYU too in that mold, but I don't know why you would pick that guy in the same spot that you could pick DTR when you worked with DTR as closely as they did at the Shrine Bowl.
And I think if they do pick a quarterback, I don't want one that's already similar to what we already have in Bailey and Mac. I would prefer someone with different skill set.
Yeah. A little game here from Tyler for Providence. Keep, trade, cut. I don't know. We do go a little bit off football, which I like. This is a good one though. So keep, trade, cut. I mean, essentially, you're saying which one do you want to keep, which one do you want to get rid of? Keep, trade, cut. Barmore, Stevenson, Duggar.
Oh, this is okay.
Oh, wow.
I get the game now.
I'm gonna keep Barmore.
Okay. I'm gonna keep Duggar.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep Duggar.
I'm gonna trade Barmore because I think there might be some value.
That's absolutely true.
And then I'm gonna cut Ramondre because he's a running back.
I'm same as Evan. I'm same as Evan.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what this means because they're not on the team, but let's just go with it. Juju, Darnell Mooney, and Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't get it either. But I like Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah. He might be one of those guys, just quickly on Brandon Ayuk, that we talk always about, like, who's the guy that's going to come free, that's not going to get the next contract with the team that he's on.
So I want to keep Debo.
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk, I mean, they can't pay Kittle, Debo, McCaffrey. Like, at some point, somebody is going to fall through the cracks in San Francisco.
My favorite thing about Ayuk is that he replaced Harry. I asked him about Harry when we were at the Combine. Oh, that's my guy, all that kind of stuff. 14th pick, Bijan Robinson, JSN, or Peter Skoronski.
Oh, that's tough. I mean, you can't like trade the pick or trade the
I don't know. That's who you want. Which one would you pick?
JSN. Yeah, not close.
In their prime, Aaron Donald, Mike Singletary, or Ed Reed.
Okay, first of all, Mike Singletary played middle linebacker, so out.
Oh, my God.
He's scary good, though.
I love Ed Reed.
Ed Reed.
Keep
Ed Reed.
Yeah.
I trade Donald because, you get something for him. And, forget about the middle linebackers.
I like Ed Reed. All right, so this is for the Gen Xer. That's me. Thank you. Not a millennial. I am not, in fact, a boomer, as everyone here at work likes to yell at me.
But Ed Reed is Ed Reed.
I'm the generation stuck in me. They're throwing Madonna, the B-52s, and Wham at me, which if you guys have opinions, you can chime in on that. But
what's the Wham song?
Wham. That's George Michael. So
right, they have that one song though. What's the song?
Yeah, Wake Me Up Before You Go.
Yeah.
That's a good song.
Yeah, I knew they had a song.
Yeah. I got to go with Madonna. I would say favorite Madonna song would either be Holiday or Live to Tell. Love Live to Tell. Favorite. Can't rule out B-52s, though. I think they've got some. I know everyone knows
Love Shack, right? Yeah.
But Rome is a great one as well. I think that might qualify more as a little REM.
That was in the Mary-Kate and Ashley soundtrack.
Yeah, that's where I probably heard it.
Worlds collide.
I like Channel Z, too, by the B-52s. But you got to go Madonna. I mean, come on. Madonna, it's all day.
Iconic.
And for the millennials, this is Run the Jewels, Childish Gambino, or Chance the Rapper.
That's tough. It's between Chance and
I like Chance. I guess Childish Gambino's the most talented. If you look at,
100%.
like, the acting and all the stuff.
But Chance, is it a hot take to say that Chance had one good album? Because that's kind of how I feel about Chance. One good album. Like, I know he's probably had mixtapes before Coloring Book, but I feel like he's never really been able to replicate Coloring Book. But Childish Gambino is like a Renaissance man, so he doesn't just make music. So
it's a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since I feel like he's come out with anything musically.
This Is America. Was that his last one?
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I'm hip. I'm cool.
It's a great song.
I need to tell you guys that Paul was texting me J. Cole lyrics.
Oh,
what does that mean?
He was texting me like random J. Cole because he couldn't think of the song that he liked and he wanted to tell me. So then I got a random.
He can sing it. He just doesn't know what the name of it is.
So then I obviously get a random text out of the blue, and it is "One time for my LA sisters."
What's the next lyric there?
One time for my LA. I'll leave it to Matt to beat that out.
Oh my God. Boy, that's fun.
We love J. Cole.
And then he texted me again the next week because he was sending me an article that me, him, and Mike Reese were talking about. And then he prefaced the article with, "First things first, rest in peace, Uncle Phil."
For real.
What?
For
Uncle
real.
Phil from Fresh Prince?
Stop it.
I didn't know he died.
What do you mean you didn't know he died?
I didn't know he died.
Stop it.
Wait.
He died
he died.
He died like 3 years ago, Mike.
Really
Wait a minute,
sad.
are you
It was
kidding?
during COVID. We
I
missed
was
a lot of deaths during the pandemic. It's okay.
He was in all right.
They all were just adding up, and we all had a lot
Wait
going
a second.
on.
Uncle Phil died? You did not just say
I didn't
that.
know. Oh, at least I knew who he was, right? Do I get any credit for that?
Yeah.
I love this. People can't. I don't know if people can see this behind us, but the top available free agents. That was very interesting.
Oh, yeah,
and
who we got?
intriguing. Obviously, OBJ's on there. I think Ezekiel Elliott. I missed the first slide, but I think he's still on there somewhere too. But it was a pretty extensive list. I'm wondering how many of those people will find homes.
Yeah, they have that. So obviously the drafted. Once you come away from the draft, you know what you didn't get to in the draft, and you fill holes. But you also have that deadline of when they stop counting towards the comp pick formula, which I think for OBJ is going to be really, really big because now if you do give OBJ some money, it doesn't count towards the comp picks.
Yeah.
So that's big for teams.
Which also too, I know the Hoyer contract was favorable to the Patriots in terms of just recouping
dead,
some of that money.
Dead
as well.
cap coming off. Yeah.
I'm just hope that we have like a three-headed monster at the end of all this. Like in terms of like a
You
great.
can hope and you can pray and you.
I feel like we need at least like a vet.
Well, here, hold please, because this is a good question
Okay.
that'll kind of dig into this. Alex in Englewood, New Jersey. Love the
Not
Young Guns
California.
crew filling in. That's right. Great show. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. 2 questions. Is Zay someone you need to trade up for? Or is 14 a good spot to stay at? I'm a BC football fan. Sad life, I know. And Zay would be a huge help. I mean, I didn't even consider that, having to trade up for Zay. I feel like 14 he should probably be there.
I think he'll be there.
But
I
you
wonder
never
if
know.
the rest of the country is hyping him up as much as we are here just because of BC.
Yeah, I think
Probably not.
I think a lot of people aren't.
But he's worth it.
Aren't probably aware of him just simply because, like, I'm sorry, I would rather watch paint dry than watch BC football play. But I think that he has gained a lot of traction.
ACC bad blood going on
I
over here.
I feel like social media helps you see players that you might not usually see on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Because no offense,
yeah.
like BC football, like I can't even imagine what their ratings are.
I know. Well, I'm going to go watch
games.
Holy Cross beat them for the first time in like 40 years. This year they're going to play again for the first time. It's like the rivalry has been restored. So I'm going to BC this year. I think it's the day before the opener, assuming the Patriots open on
There's
Sunday
definitely
the
a lot of Zay hype for teams, I would say, that are picking at the end of the first round. Like I know like a lot of people in Buffalo are praying that he makes it that far down the board so that they can draft him.
Keep dreaming,
So
Bills.
Right. The Bills Mafia love to like But if he makes it to us, like they love that guy. Every year it's like somebody that's going to be picked like 15 picks ahead of their pick, and they're always like, but he's going to make it to 27. It's like, no, he's not.
I love when Evan scolds Bills fans. Second part of this question, though, which was the part I was going to get at, for each of you, what has to happen in the draft for you to think that this team is headed in the positive direction and is going to win double digits this season? I might not say double digits.
That's
it would take a lot.
little strong.
But I think, to Evan's point, I think, like, look, we're gonna drop our mock drafts tomorrow, and I do think tackle's still in that conversation, and I can make a case for that. But I think just to re-energize a fan base locally, nationally, give Max something to kind of chomp on a little bit. It's a Zay Flowers type move. That is something to bring people out at training camp.
I think that with all of these picks that you have available, you cannot waste them on people that no one's ever heard of. Like, no offense to like Cole Strange, but like, if I have to sit here and like go deep back in like 5 rounds to find where Cole Strange was, I don't want somebody out of Chattanooga. You have all these SEC guys, especially if like there were so many other people available that you could have taken. I think they need to use these picks and go after like actual great talent that's played against great competition. Not saying that Cole Strange didn't, but I'm just saying
someone that Sean McVay is not going to be laughing.
Yes,
live air.
Literally laughing at us.
It needs to be like these picks need to be used on players that are like come from actual football brands. Like, so don't get like the off-brand like Dollar Tree version of what we need.
That's my baseline.
Yeah.
My baseline is that these need to be name brand. Especially the 2 picks in the top 50. If they want to go out on their own board from the 3rd round on, like, we're throwing darts as it is. So if you think your dart is a better dart than my dart, then fine. But when you pick at 14 and 46, those are premium inside the top 50, inside the top 20 of the first round type of picks. And those have got to be name brand blue blood type of players where you just are saying, yes, like that's, I know who you're talking about. I know you're supposed to be drafted here. I know that's the casual fan of this team, of our shows, that listens to our shows, should be able to say, oh yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. But if I've never heard of your school before in my life, there's a problem.
That's a baseline.
I don't want it. We got a great question I'm going to wrap with. I'm not going to pose that one just yet. We're too far. I got one more pretty good football one, and I'm glad from Richard from Florida who sent this in, because I feel like we spend so much time talking about Mac, the offense, Flowers, all those things. The majority of the time is addressing the average at best offense from last year, which is understandable, but why not discuss the defense and how many games they lost after the offense had them ahead? Games like Las Vegas, scoring in the last minute before the infamous lateral. Green Bay game, Pats ahead. Defense allows 3 straight pass completions while the DBs are 7
We're
and 9
not blaming
yards
the defense.
No.
Minnesota game, Pats ahead, and then allow the receivers to catch and hoping to tackle. Any others you can think of?
Some of those games, special teams lost the game. Like that Minnesota game, like special teams was horrible.
I also would just love to see. I wish Paul was here for this discussion, because I know he kind of falls on another side of this, that he feels that the defense still is further away than I think we all do, and I know that Deuce and I do just from our conversations. I would love to see the Patriots defense in a position where they don't need to hold the opponent to 17 points to win the game.
They're not on the field the whole game.
That's
They're burnt out.
If you want to blame them for a loss, it's like, how burnt out were they at?
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so much pressure on the defense every time they play one of these good quarterbacks to hold the fort. And there's the record speaks for itself. When opponents score more than 21 points against the Patriots, they haven't won a game in like 2 years.
Yeah.
When the opponent scores into the 20s. So if you know that going into every single game, that amount of pressure is, I think, at times insurmountable. And the emailer's point of, okay, well, they didn't hold the fort against Minnesota, or they weren't able to get the stop against the Raiders. Like, yeah, like all those things can be true, but I can also point to a million things that the offense did wrong in those games too, that even got them in those positions or cost them games, like in the Raiders game, or in Cincinnati when Ramondre fumbles at the 10-yard line going in for the game-winning score. Like, this can go both ways, but I just feel like defensively let's see what it looks like when they actually feel like their offense is going to go toe-to-toe for once with another good quarterback, and they don't need to pitch a shutout against Josh Allen to get a win. I would just love to see that.
It was a miracle just to see a touchdown scored in the first part of the game.
Well, they didn't score
versus seeing a bunch of field goals.
The opening drive, their first opening drive touchdown of the year was Thanksgiving night in Minnesota.
Wild.
That's 13 weeks into the season. And that was the first time that they took the opening drive, which you practice all week long. You script. That's your game plan, right? That's your 20, 25 plays that you feel really good about going into a game. And it took them till Thanksgiving to score. I mean, those are the types of things that I feel like this defense is just always backs against the wall, always behind the 8 ball. They're always trailing. They got to get into some games where the defense has a lead. And I think when we see that, they do unlock that pass rush. Uche and Judon and those guys do get after it against the bad teams when the Patriots play with a lead. So I just would like to see that before we go and sell on the defense.
All right, I'm gonna throw the last question. I don't know if this is gonna be the last one, just because we got a little bit of time left. And of course, stick around. Evan's going 4 hours straight today. Catch 22 coming after you, right?
And then mock drafts. This is my kind of.
And then we're gonna shoot a mock draft video. So the mock drafts will be out tomorrow. There'll be a mock draft video. There'll be big boards, which, I mean, we should probably tease this a little bit. I mean, the big boards for us is a big.
We were talking about it last night that now I have 51 players.
Yeah, because Bijan Robinson is apparently in their radar. But I mean, just for a little bit of context, I think this will be my 12th or 13th year doing. So it's 50 prospects, your favorite guys, your favorite fits, and it's and for me, when I started doing it was like, how can I kind of hold myself accountable? Because I feel like everybody does. Here's mock draft 27.3, and I got that in mock draft 24.4. It just becomes all right, that's ridiculous. So every year I'm just like, all right, 50 guys, how many can I get? And last year was the first time in 12 years I didn't get any. So I blame Matt Groh for that one, and I think we both took Cole Strange off of our big boards shortly before.
I had Cole Strange. So usually what I do is I really try to focus on nailing the top 100. When their first 3 picks, I just want to get those picks. And I took Cole Strange off because I thought he was a 4th rounder.
I would love how different draft night would be if we had a GM. Not Bill doing both. I wonder, how much different it would be if a separate person was a GM.
I think you just have to pretend Matt Groh is the GM, and that's probably what it would be like. You have Matt Groh kind of speaking for things, and I don't know. It is what it is.
I just feel like that just the little bit of conversations that I've been able to have with Matt Groh is that he's a college guy through and through. That's how he came up the ranks, was area scout, and then director of college scouting, and then director of player personnel, and his just knowledge of the recruiting trail and coaches and people on campus and things like that you just need to you need to have that connection to it was like what we were talking about earlier about knowing the kid and knowing his mental makeup and knowing his attitude. And I think that's really difficult to do as a head coach / general manager when Bill all fall is focused on his own team and then he switches gears to then going into the draft. Whereas a guy like Matt Groh, those guys are on the road constantly. They're at these games. They don't just watch guys on TV like we all do. They're going to Ohio State and watching Jackson Smith and Jigba play football up close. And then they're going and they're talking to his receivers coach. And then they're talking to, his buddy that he's roommates with.
Ex-girlfriend.
They just go down that rabbit hole. And I think it's difficult to then come in January and say, well, these are the best guys I see on film, but not having that background and that connection. So that's why I'm optimistic. The only reason why I'm optimistic is because when I talked to Matt Groh about the draft, he loves that type of stuff.
But I wonder how much weight he has. That's my issue. It's I wonder when it came to Cole Strange, where was Matt Groh on that at 14? I mean, not 14. Well, at that pick.
Yeah.
Where was he? And how much was Bill being the GM and the coach just trumping the decision?
I think
that's my issue.
My read on the Cole Strange situation was that I think Bill felt like they really needed a guard because of free agency, because Ted Karras left, they traded Shaq Mason, and they created this hole for themselves at guard. And I think Bill really felt that they needed a guard, and the board that they had stacked had Cole Strange as the best guard on the board, so they took the guard. But would that be what Matt Groh would do? Probably not, because I think a lot of executives around the league just look at it as talent. Like, let's just grab talent, right? And so I think Matt Groh would look at it and say, well, our number one rated player on our vertical board is so-and-so. So I think the GM would probably take that player, whereas the coach looks at it from two different hats of where's my biggest hole on my depth chart and what's my board stacked like. We don't have a left guard right now. If the season were to start tomorrow, Cole Strange.
That's where I think like having a separate GM would be very helpful. Like I feel like if you had the separate GM, you probably wouldn't have let all those people go to create that big of a hole for you before the draft.
I just think that the problem that I agree, and I think the issue is that I think where the Patriots are right now, they need to be in a position where talent trumps need in some respects. And I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I wouldn't take Bijan Robinson. But at the same time, I feel like talent, they don't have a good enough roster to start worrying about who's going to start at left guard in week one. They just need to get the best collection of talent that they possibly can through the draft and then figure out where everybody fits after the fact. So when you're rebuilding like this, that's I think trumps everything is let's get the best football players in the building and not necessarily think about it from that coaching perspective of building a depth chart.
Yeah, like I remember literally being in the draft show and our pick was coming up and the people that I was like so excited about were still available, and then we traded back and got Cole Strange, and I was like,
who was your guy? The
linebacker? Was it from Florida State?
Yeah, Florida State linebacker.
I think he had
Florida
Jets.
State. I think the Jets took him.
Jermaine Johnson.
I was sick.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding? Like he was literally still there. It was all falling into place, still there, and then we traded back.
Yeah. All right. So last question, and famous listener, Boston Cream favorite. Very simple, direct to the point. Hello. State your Mount Rushmore of desserts. So I love desserts.
Mount Rushmore of desserts.
I love desserts, and I thought this was a good one. And I'm also going to add one part in honor of Boston Cream. What's your favorite donut? It doesn't have to be at Dunkin' Donuts, but it could be.
Also, Dunkin' does not have the best donuts.
Dunkin's pretty mid.
No, I know. I mean, we'd all love to go to PVD Donuts.
You can't say Dunkin's mid. They're sponsored. Jeez, and Kenny's already right there.
Sorry, Kenny.
Favorite dessert? I think I gotta go ice cream. I love ice cream.
What?
Yeah.
Me too.
I
just ice cream.
Wait. You need to say a flavor.
Hold on,
cookies and cream with
chocolate
jimmies.
I haven't even yet
Jimmies.
begun. My latest one though that I guess he's my stepdad Don. I don't know. When your mom gets remarried when you're in your 40s, do you call the guy your stepdad? It's like he's Don. Love Don. Don peanut butter sundaes. Holy crap, those are delicious. Peanut butter sauce. Ice cream. And Evan, we're not speaking your language. I know we're going dairy heavy here, but
there was a time where I could eat dairy.
Chocolate chip ice cream, peanut butter sundae. Got to have the whipped cream, cherry, nuts. Sign me up.
I'm weird because I feel like ice cream is complimentary to like the desserts, like and like
that's the pie.
Ice cream and cake or pie. Yeah.
So I like ice cream is great, but I wouldn't.
All right. Well, answer the question now. What are you picking then?
I'm torn because I really like apple pie with ice cream, incredible. But then I love sweet potato pie, but I feel like that's only seasonal. And then I also love cheesecake.
Cheesecake is again not something Evan can have, but something I love.
Like cheesecake, especially at Cheesecake Factory, where there's endless flavors. It's just, I can't.
Alec, are you ice cream? What flavor? Specific place.
Cookies and cream. I'm not super picky about the place. I just like when it's like a real nice hard serve that's nice and creamy, and you can tell it's a quality ice cream. And then
it's such an Alex answer.
You just tell
quality.
If you think that was an Alex answer, wait for this one. Fruit salad, like a bowl of fruit, is my favorite thing in the world. I think I housed my weight in grapes last night. I love just fresh fruit and
fruit salad.
Every now and then, fruit
salad.
Your Mount Rushmore of dessert.
Like just fruit salad, ice cream.
What are the fruits in the salad?
Potato chips.
If we ever have a potluck, don't let Alex bring the dessert.
No, it's gonna be strawberries.
I would bake all of you out of your home.
Don't have a bake.
I would like that, but
Evan?
It has to be dairy free though, Alex.
All right, so I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go pre-dairy free.
Who's your Zay Flowers of desserts?
Oreo cheesecake.
Ooh,
Number
that's
one.
great. That's
Number
a great
one.
call. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking my language right now. I have a very, very bad sweet tooth.
Me too.
So I would say Oreo cheesecake. Nothing beats a great hot fudge brownie sundae. Like that's
Yeah.
just
So good.
quality.
Too much chocolate for me.
I'm old school. A nice piece of birthday cake is still like really solid
Yes.
to me. Like
Yes.
some good frosting,
Good
marble
fro-
cake with some good frosting. I really like
Marble
that.
cake.
You even don't like marble
Marble
cake.
cake.
You get a little bit of both.
give me
It's
the-
the perfect scenario.
Get a little bit of both.
How could you not like that? And then it was Mount Rushmore, right? So you got to go
I gotta
four.
go more. Yeah.
Yeah, I need two more too.
I do like a nice chocolate fudge cake, like
Yeah.
just like
Ew.
multi-layer
You're
chocolate.
chocoholic.
I just said,
Chocoholic,
I have a very bad sweet tooth.
I
yeah.
gotta throw one more up, and I make it now. Is cookie skillet, like taking
Oh,
taking
yeah,
a,
like
taking
a hot
an
cookie.
iron
So
skillet,
good. Good one.
make
Yeah.
the cookie, and then
With the
Tamara's
ice
thing,
cream?
put some ice cream on it.
So good.
And why do you? Like, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I have ice cream. I need whipped cream too. Why do you need ice cream and whipped cream? What is it about the two contrasting textures that make it? Mwah? But I gotta have whipped cream on there.
It's a good one.
I'd like to
And Dunkin'
add-
Donuts rules. Sorry.
I'll have the
This is
old
not
fashioned.
very sweet, but I love Cape Cod. I don't know. I'm a salty girl, I guess. So some Cape Cod potato chips, like just
Yeah.
OG
You go to the
head
factory?
over.
like the
Do the
kettle cooked
tour?
ones.
But
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
call chips a dessert though?
No,
Like
That's a
that's
dessert
it's
for
a snack.
me.
It's
Chips?
a snack.
No, it's a side with a
Snack
sandwich,
is
girl.
dessert.
Come on.
It's empty bullshit.
What are
Oh,
we
sorry.
talking-
Crap calories.
We got her. We got her.
My first swear. Crap.
Darn it.
That's good. All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up. Don't forget to stay tuned. Catch 22 coming up next. And yeah, like we said, 3 weeks away from the draft, but we are just going to be pumping out stuff for the draft. Mock drafts, big boards, all kinds of analysis. Evan wrote up a thing today. If you missed it, go check that out as well. And we'll have our guys back on Tuesday. So we'll see you then.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.